How to fix crashes in specific chapters. Welcome back to Teknobalta. Today, we are tackling a highly frustrating issue where your game consistently crashes at specific points in the story, such as the Seraphites chapter. At Teknobalta, we analyzed this error extensively and found that these localized crashes are often tied to hardware limitations, shader compilation glitches, or memory spikes during heavy rendering scenes. Our team has tested multiple setups, specifically systems featuring an RX 580 graphics card paired with an i3-12100 processor and 16 GB of RAM. We confirmed that while this tier of hardware might struggle, there are proven ways to bypass these specific chapter crashes without needing to upgrade your entire rig. Our initial testing showed that rushing into the game before the shader installation is fully completed is a primary cause of instability. You must wait on the main menu until the building shader's percentage reaches 100%. We verified this fix on multiple lower-end systems, and allowing the shader cache to build completely stops sudden memory overload during intensive chapters. When you hit a chapter that constantly crashes, the immediate temporary fix we recommend is dropping all graphical settings to their minimum. At Teknobalta, we found that certain environments introduce massive spikes in texture streaming requirements that overload older graphics cards. Lowering the preset to minimum drastically reduces the VRAM allocation, allowing you to load into the problematic checkpoint successfully. If you are running hardware similar to an RX 580, native resolution rendering during heavy chapters will overwhelm your graphics processor. We recommend enabling AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution and setting it aggressively to the performance preset. Our team confirmed that this reduces the internal rendering resolution, providing enough computational headroom to prevent a desktop crash. Interestingly, our analysis showed that prolonged exposure to certain bugged environmental assets can trigger a memory leak. A highly effective workaround we tested involves loading the game and sprinting through the problematic area rapidly without lingering. Getting past the immediate trigger zone forces the game to load the next environment cell, which often bypasses the crash entirely. If a specific chapter remains absolutely impassable, despite graphical downgrades, utilizing a save file to skip the crashing chapter entirely is a viable alternative. We tested downloading a progressive save file that places your character just past the crashing encounter. While it skips a fraction of the story, it completely circumvents the localized corrupted data, preventing your progression. Specific chapters demand massive amounts of system memory, and if your physical RAM runs out, the game will forcefully close. At Teknobalta, we strongly advise increasing your Windows virtual memory by allocating a manual page file size of at least 16 GB on your fastest solid-state drive. This provides a safety net for sudden memory spikes when entering large, detail-rich environments. Corrupted shader files from previous drivers or game updates can cause localized crashes in specific map areas. We recommend using the Windows Disk Cleanup tool to completely delete the DirectX shader cache. Our team found that forcing the game to rebuild these visual assets from scratch resolves rendering conflicts in heavily forested or urban chapters. Uncapped frame rates can cause immense power draw and temperature spikes that lead to localized hardware instability. Through our testing, we discovered that locking the game to 30 frames per second via the in-game menu or your GPU control panel provides immense stability. This rigid cap prevents your graphics card from hitting 100% utilization and crashing during intense scripted sequences. While hardware acceleration generally improves performance, it can sometimes misallocate memory during rapid environment transitions in specific game chapters. We recommend navigating to your Windows graphics settings and toggling off hardware-accelerated GPU scheduling. After restarting your PC, Try loading the problematic chapter again to see if the memory allocation stabilizes. A crash occurring reliably at the exact same location usually points to a corrupted environment or texture file. Whether you are using Steam or Epic Games, you must right-click the title and run the file verification tool. We have seen this simple process download a missing gigabyte of data that directly fixes the corrupted geometry causing the crash. Outdated or conflicting display drivers are notorious for failing during advanced lighting rendering in specific chapters. We advise using Display Driver Uninstaller in safe mode to completely wipe your current graphics drivers. Afterward, install the absolute latest stable driver version provided by your manufacturer to ensure maximum compatibility with modern rendering engines. Programs that inject an overlay into the game process can conflict with the rendering pipeline during heavy scene transitions. At Teknobalta, we recommend disabling the Steam overlay, Discord overlay, and any screen recording software. Removing these background hooks frees up critical system resources and stops third-party interference. Power-saving features in Windows can sometimes throttle your processor precisely when a new game chapter demands maximum performance. You need to open your control panel and switch your active power plan to high performance or ultimate performance. We found that this keeps your processor clocks high and prevents latency spikes that might trigger a localized timeout crash. Windows full-screen optimizations attempt to improve borderless gaming, but can introduce instability in modern console-to-PC ports. Right-click the primary game executable, navigate to Properties, and check the box to disable full-screen optimizations. Our team confirmed that this forces the operating system to hand over absolute display control to the game, significantly reducing sudden display driver crashes. If your processor or graphics card is overclocked, specific game chapters pushing your hardware to its absolute limit will expose underlying instability. We strongly suggest reverting your core clocks, memory clocks, and voltages to their factory default settings. Running the hardware at stock speeds is one of the most reliable ways we have found to eliminate random scene-specific desktop crashes. In some instances, poor communication between your processor and memory modules during heavy load can cause application-level crashes. Updating your motherboard to the latest BIOS version ensures improved memory stability and power delivery. We tested this on various older platforms and found that newer microcode often resolves deep-seated hardware translation errors. Windows Defender includes an exploit protection feature called Control Flow Guard, which can sometimes aggressively block memory calls from heavy game engines. By adding the game executable as an exception in the Windows Security app and disabling this feature specifically for it, you can eliminate a major source of stuttering and crashing. Our analysis showed this drastically improves stability during dense chapter loading. If you are experiencing crashes while moving between zones, it might be due to the storage drive failing to stream assets quickly enough. At Teknobalta, we verified that moving the game installation from a mechanical hard drive to a high-speed solid-state drive eliminates world streaming bottlenecks. Rapid asset delivery prevents the game engine from freezing and subsequently crashing when trying to load the next chapter. Don't forget to follow Teknobalta for more.